Any doubt so far in the yesterday's derivation? Okay, who's present? Divya, Gagan, Lavanya, Sivasar, Soumya. Okay. For 8 of us. So maximum not attending. Okay. Okay, so here we ended yesterday in the derivation then and explained this process. This was our results of the beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat with the OLS estimates, where we are trying to minimize the sum of square of u hat square. So this one step was missing yesterday and there was some mistakes, so I did it correction and shared that proof with you, that how this particular left hand side is, I mean, these two equations are equivalent to these equations. That proof, although yesterday, but there was some mistake in that. So those of you want this particular proof, this is just to that either you can use this particular formula or you can go with this particular formula. Both will give you the same results. This is just changes in the derivation, some few modifications. So this is the proof of that this particular left hand side is equal to this side, and if we divide this with the beta, this particular summation xi minus mean bracket whole square, then it's beta 2 hat. This proof I already shared with all of you. So anyone, you can just practice it. If you have any doubt, then please let me know. So these were our parameters. This was intercept coefficient, and this was the slope coefficient. These all the three values are same, just change in the notation, that this is in the deviation form and this is in the x minus x mean form. This is the same thing. Just the proof that this term is equivalent to this term, that proof I shared with you. So, okay, let's do one numerical with that. It means this is the formula or the intercept coefficient and slope coefficient. So how we do this numericals? First, just understand the process, and I'll show you the same process with the Stata software as well. Let's suppose this is our y variable. This example I have took from the Gujarati chapter 3. This is our y variable, dependent variable, and this is our independent variable. So now you have to keep in mind that these are the formulas to apply to find this intercept and slope. So what first we need for this particular formula, we need, if you go by this particular, then you need this all the calculations. And if you want to go by this particular method, then you need x mean, y mean, and then all the calculation. So first you have to calculate for this particular formula, you have to need xi, that is x minus x mean. So first you have to calculate mean of the x, that is 170, mean of the y 111. Then subtract y minus y mean, and if you multiply this both the terms, this is our and take a summation, that's our numerator term, summation xi y, small xi yi, deviation form. And denominator, we have x minus mean and whole square. So that is this particular summation. So if you divide this summation by this summation, this particular formula, then you will get value of slope coefficient. And for the intercept, it's y mean minus beta 2 hat x. So now we have a beta 2 hat. So if we can put here, then we can get this beta 1 hat. So this is how you will get this slope coefficient and intercept coefficient to get a regression line. And y hat is when you put this x values in this equation, regression equation, y hat equal to beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat xi. Here, if you put all the x values, then you will get y hat. And actual value minus y hat, that is our residual term. And this residual term means the whole idea behind this OLS method is to minimize this residual, but absolute summation is 0 in all the sample cases, so we don't know which sample regression function is better. So to get rid of this particular problem, we took square of ui and we try to minimize the summation ui hat square. That's the idea behind the derivation of OLS estimates. So this is how we can work with the OLS estimates. And if you put this data in the Stata, it directly gives us the results. Like this is the regression line. This is our intercept coefficient, slope coefficient. And if we put x values for all the corresponding y values, then you will get regression line. This is how we estimate this coefficient. This is the whole idea is we need a regression line. The purpose is that we need that how much is the changes in y due to change in the independent variable x, and that's the slope coefficient will tell us. But when slope of this particular independent variable is 0, still there is some value for the y variable. That's the intercept. That's here 24. And slope 0.50, that if x will increase by 1 unit, y will increase by 0.50 units on an average. And if you do the same thing with the regression with the Stata, that automatically give you the coefficients. Now you can match these coefficients. That's Stata and the manual calculation, both are giving the same, and this is the regression line we have. Then this is the bivariate regression analysis. Means based upon, we started it with we are minimizing the summation u hat square. I explained yesterday that why u hat square, not the actual summation, the problem with that. And if we take its derivative with respect to beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat, that will give us two normal equations. These two normal equations, and if we solve these two normal equations, we can get this parameter sample estimates beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat with this derivation. So this is how you can derivate sample estimates beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat if we have a bivariate regression analysis. Means only one independent variable, and dependent variable is in the form of quantitative ratio scale variable. So before going to the properties, some numerical properties with this derivative and statistical properties, first I want to do it with the matrix form so that you can understand that what if you have more than one or more than two variables regression model, means you have a more than one independent variable. It might be 3 independent variables, 4 independent variables. Then how you estimate, means here we have only two equations to sort out, two normal equations. But if your variables are large, then there are a number of equations, and that would take a time to solve. So in place of this simultaneous equations method, generally we go with the matrix method. That in matrix you can solve a number of equations. So first just try to understand this multivariate regression analysis, that if you have more than one independent variable, then how you can estimate this beta 1. Now you have a slope coefficients, partial slope coefficients for all the independent variables. So then it's more than two sample estimates. So again, the idea in the background is voice is breaking for everyone, or Gagan is I am audible, or is there a problem? Okay. Okay, then might be some internet problem. Divya is saying today my connection is really bad. Okay, Divya, no problem. Then again, now we are going to do it with the matrix. Now, background is same, that we are going to minimize u hat square, summation u hat square. But while it comes to a matrix, now the way we write the equations is different than the simple simultaneous equation methods. Now, in matrix, the square means transpose and u hat. So there are basics of matrix that is required to do this derivation with the matrix method. So wherever this is required, I'll give you those hints that this is from this particular property. But if you're going to any standard this econometrics textbooks, all the books have appendix like this Mandala, then Gujarati, then Woolridge. All the books have a appendix for the basics of the distributions, basics of the matrix, the the statistical or mathematical information that is required in the econometrics. So you have to go with those appendix. First, just do some practice with these basics. Then you can understand these derivations. But so far, I'll tell you where these properties are required. So I'll give you that property that this one is useful here. So now we have a more than one independent variable case. Now let's suppose you have a n number of independent variable case. So how you estimate these intercept coefficient, then partial slope coefficients, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4 up to k. So now you have equations like the actual data is like this particular equations. First the first individual, then second, then third, and so on. So here, first the way we write these equations, this is not like first equation, second equation. So this information in the matrix form is like this particular form. In the left hand side, we have a y, this particular variable. Then in the left hand side, first we have a x independent variables matrix with the respective slope coefficients with the intercept term. This one is for the intercept terms because if you can see in all the equations, first one is the intercept, then beta 2, then beta 3, then up to beta k. So that's our slope coefficient, intercept coefficient matrix plus residual array term. First, just try to understand with the population regression functions. That's why there is no hat here, just a notation different. Let's suppose this is the population regression function. So these equations we can write in matrix form in this particular. Means if you can multiply this particular x matrix with this beta matrix, you will get these equations. This is how we can write these equations in a matrix form. Now in matrix, for multiplication and all other properties, dimensions of matrix is important. Means can only multiply the matrices when the column of the first matrix is equal to the row number of rows in the second matrix. Then only you can multiply the matrices. Otherwise, you can't multiply. This is the basic about this matrix multiplication. Now, these are the dimensions that in this first particular matrix, that is y, our dependent variable, n number of rows and one number of columns. For x matrix, n number of rows and k number of columns. For the beta matrix, k number of row but only one column. And then for the residual term, n number of rows but only one column. So this dimension is nothing but this same process. I mean, the number, it depends upon the how much sample size you have. That will decide these dimensions. Now this is how we can write this equation in matrix form. Means yesterday we have this y equal to beta 1 hat plus beta 2 hat multiplied by x plus residual term. Here we have y matrix equal to x matrix multiplied by beta matrix plus residual term. This beta matrix is consisting of slope coefficients as well as intercept coefficients are this beta matrix. This dimension or this form of writing the matrix is just for these equations. Means you have n number of equations, so it's just how we can write this in the matrix form. So if you can multiply this, you will get same this number of equations. Any doubt so far? Means yesterday we have this. We are doing it with the simultaneous equation method, and there the equation is y equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x then plus residual term. Here in place of that, now we have more than one independent variable. So now we are doing with the this matrix form. So now our regression equation is y matrix. This is the means this particular equation consisting all the equations that y equal to x matrix multiplied by beta matrix plus residual term. Now here from here now we have to estimate or we have to derive our beta, all the betas, because these are the sample estimates that we have to estimate. So if it's a sample data, then the notations will change. Now we have a beta hat, the same thing we are doing yesterday, and u hat. Just notation, change in the notation to describe that this is from the sample data. So now in sample form, now this equation is same, but just with the beta hat and residual hat. This is the matrix form. Now we are going to minimize u hat square that we did yesterday. The same thing we are going to here. We are going to minimize summation u hat square. So now in matrix, this u hat is like this u transpose into u hat. Now here you might have this doubt that why first u hat transpose and then u hat, why not vice versa, that u hat multiplied by u hat transpose. The reason is that if we have this particular, means just keep in mind that this u hat summation u hat square is one single value. It's not that n number of values. Means if we solve the regression equation, if again I'll give you this example. If you take square of this u hat and take its summation, then you will get one single individual value. It's not that you have matrix type of values. So if you go by this particular u transpose, then you have a matrix of n into n. So that's not the here that u summation u hat square is a one single value, means it's a scalar value, scalar matrix. So that's only possible when you take this u hat transpose in the first place and u hat afterwards. Then only you will get a single value. That's a scalar matrix that you have a single value. That's why it's that in matrix this order has a meaning. It's not that you can write u hat then u hat transpose. No, it's not interchangeable. It means because the multiplication results will change. So this process that how you write these multiplications will matter in matrices. So this is the u hat square, so summation u hat square, and we have to minimize it. Means yesterday we minimized summation u hat square, and then we got estimate of beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat. Again we are going to do it, the process is same, only now we in place of simple equations we have a matrix. So u hat transpose into u hat means u hat is from this equation y minus x multiplied by beta hat. So it's u hat. So first it's transpose y minus x matrix multiplied by beta hat transpose, then multiply by y minus x into beta hat. This is the u hat values. So if you multiply, we will get summation u hat square. Just to give us some brief about this derivations, I am taking this reference from Gujarati, Damodar Gujarati Basic Econometrics. and William Green Econometric Analysis. Although I found that best the book that is for the econometric reference is William Green, but generally in the starting we always go with the Bullrich, then Kotsianis, Madala, or the Gujarati. But just for a reference, I'm taking Green here also because in Green all the from I think chapter 1 or 2 onward, all the exercise they had done with the matrix method only, and there is a reason behind that. Yesterday I also telling that while we have this matrix method for n number of independent variables, then why we do first with the simultaneous equation methods and matrices. But the one benefit is that for in the beginning we keep it simple, so that's why we use the simultaneous equation methods. But I'll show you later on that both will give the same results, and if you know this matrix method, that's more than enough. This is only a slightly a change in the notation that Green Book using beta 0 as a beta matrix, and in place of u hat they are using this e means for the error. So this is only the change in the notation, but the both are the same things. Now we have to minimize it, and with the minimizing we have to differentiate this beta matrix so that we can get all the sample estimates. Any doubt so far? Then I'll start with this derivation part. Means anyone any doubt so far till here? This point I cleared that why you had transpose first and then you had, although I have seen that students in masters and graduates they just cram these formulas, but there are logics here that you have to keep in mind. And in place of my notes I've taken appendix notes from the textbooks itself, so that it will give you reference as well rather than trying someone else's notes. Better to go with the textbooks itself. Now we have to minimize it. Before that, just multiply this. If you multiply this, you will get this particular equation. If you have any doubt, please just ask me. Actually, this is from the Gujarati and this one is from the Green textbook. Now, if you multiply these two terms, this equation is become like this. Means it's just some at many places just they jump from one equation to another equation, and maybe sometime it got stuck there that how it came. So just I'm taking reference from 3 or 4 textbooks so that I can explain you as maximum steps as possible. If you multiply this, you will get this equation is like this, and then this particular term and this particular term, both have a scalar matrix. So if you have a scalar matrix, you can just add them, and that's why here it's written -2. Means now you can say what is scalar matrix. Scalar matrix is like you have one single value. So if you can write their dimensions in both the dimension of these equations, it will become scalar matrix. Or if you want me to write, I'll write it. Just wait a second. For the time, you just try to solve this equation. Let me show you how this is a scalar matrix. Okay. So we have how to adjust it. Is it visible? Okay, just first let me write it. Minus beta is just a beta matrix transpose, just to show you how this is scalar matrix, and then y transpose x beta 0. How this both the matrices are scalar means you can see here that they have written it as 2y transpose x beta 0. Okay, so first just let me maximize it. Now, why these two are scalar matrix? This first beta matrix, now you have to go with the dimensions of these matrices. Beta 0 transpose x transpose y. So first just see its dimensions. Now beta hat dimension is k into 1. So its transpose matrix is 1 into k. Then x dimension is n into k. Its transpose dimension is k into n. Then y dimension is n into 1. So if you multiply these matrices, you will get 1 into 1, one single value. That's why it's a scalar matrix. Now if you solve this second one, y transpose x beta 0. Now y transpose is 1 into n dimension because y matrix is with the n into 1 dimension. Then for x matrix, the dimensions are n into k, and for beta matrix, the dimension is k into 1. So again, this particular value is 1 into 1, single value. That's why these are the scalar matrices. So you can just add these two, and you can write this minus 2. Now, is it clear that why these are scalar matrices? Then I'll go to the next step. Any doubt? Okay. So if you don't have any doubt, then now you can see this. These both have a scalar matrix. So you can just add it minus minus 2. Now here, which one you will keep? That's the only difference here in this particular step. And here you will find a difference in Gujarati and Green reference book. But later on, I cross-checked with the other reference book like GS Madala, and they have followed the Green method. And even Woolridge is giving reference to this Green textbook. So this is the reference book. Please show y is of order. This is here, Lavanya. These are the dimension of the matrices. Means these things you have to keep practice, then only you can understand this. The one single class, it's not possible. And I have some time shortage. So later on, just you can practice, just try to understand these dimensions. These are the dimensions, and that's only important while we multiply. So if we multiply now, these both have the scalar matrix that I had explained you. So that's why you can add. Now here the thing is that if you can go by this Gujarati, you can see here that they have kept this first value and then minus 2, and in the green they have kept the second one and the minus 2. Although because both have a scalar matrix, one single value, you can keep anyone. That won't make a difference. Means both have a same value. It's just you can keep anyone. They have a same value. But later on, while to differentiate, now the second step is this is our U hat square, right? And what we need, we have to differentiate it with respect to beta matrix. Then only we will get this beta matrix values. The same process that we did yesterday in the simultaneous equation method. So if you differentiate this particular equation with respect to beta hat matrix, you will get these two values. Now here this transpose will change, means in the multiplication. Here this is a property of the matrices rule you have to follow. Let me give you this particular, yeah, this particular rule means if you have a, let's suppose you have this particular matrix X transpose A and multiply by X, and if you differentiate this particular matrices with respect to X, if you take column vector, then the answer will be 2A because it's a square, so the power is power first multiply, then the remaining part A into X. And if you keep a row vector, then it's X transpose A. So here actually in this particular derivation, we need a row vector. That's why we're keeping here a row vector, because otherwise the dimension will be like, if you take this vice versa, here the dimension is k into n and n into 1 and k into 1. That's the dimension of beta. Means keep in mind that we have to find the value of beta matrix, and its dimension is k into 1. This is a row vector we need. That's why intentionally, means here after differentiating it, we are keeping it a row vector. Although both are true, it's not that this one is incorrect and this one is the correct. Now, if you take a, if you want a column vector, then you have to keep a column vector. If you need a row vector, you have to keep a row vector. So that depends on the situation. And here we have our beta, particular beta matrix, the values which actually we need to derive is a row vector. So that intentionally here we kept it in the form of row vector. And here it's again a square. Here just one simple mistake is, this is a typing mistake. It's actually beta 0 transpose. This is the same values, just by mistake the transpose is not here. You can confirm with here, it's a beta hat transpose. So it's again a square, so the two will multiply and the remaining part will interchange. And now you can cross check its dimensions also as well, that k into n, n into 1, sorry, k into n, n into a, k, and k into 1. So its dimension is also k into 1. So that's intentionally they kept this in the row vector form. Otherwise, you can go with the, like here, if you go with the, maybe in Gujarati to just keep it simplicity, because if you here just directly go with this beta transpose derivation, you will directly get this X transpose Y. But better you have to keep this particular same form in both the equations. That's what I prefer. But both will give you the same results. They are not going to change. And then the first order minimum necessary condition is equal to 0. The same we did yesterday. So if we, okay, before just solving this equation, now one negative, this is negative, that you can keep in the other side and other remaining part in the right hand side. So our equation will be 2 will be 2 will cancel out on both the sides, and we will remaining with the X transpose Y equal to X transpose X beta matrix. That is the remaining part, this last equation here. Just a notation change, that Gujarati using beta hat and green is using beta. You can go by any dimension. Here just it's equal to sign. It's not a minus in the Gujarati case, it's equal to sign. So now what it means actually in the matrix form. In matrix forms, it is actually this right hand side is X transpose and Y matrix. And in the left hand side, we have X transpose into X, that's the square of X multiplied by beta hat. Now from here, we need a value of beta hat. Yesterday, we have a two normal equations, and we solved two normal equations by simultaneous equation. Then we got this values, beta 1 hat and beta 2 hat. So here you have a matrices form, then you can solve it with the matrices. Now, what will be the value for beta hat, this particular matrix? Now we need only a beta hat value in the left hand side, right? Means this is not required. We only need beta hat value matrices for all the values for all the sample estimates. So just take this in the right hand side, but it's not in the matrix that you can just directly shift. In the matrix, it's like inverse form. Means in the division, it means it's an inverse form. So just multiply both the sides with the inverse of this matrix. Now, if you multiply any matrix with its inverse, it's identity matrix. I mean, this is again a property of the matrix. A inverse, A into A inverse, or A inverse into A is equal to identity matrix. So we have in the left hand side identity matrix, A inverse into A. What is A here? X transpose X. And in the right hand side, we have this X transpose X inverse multiplied by X transpose and Y. And this is the value for our beta matrix. Now you can cross check the dimensions. Left hand side K into 1, that's our row vector, this beta hat, beta matrix. And right hand side again, now we left with K into 1. So the remaining, whatever the after multiplication this matrix will give us, that's the value for all the beta hat. Before numerical, just example, just first let me know, anyone have any doubt in this particular derivation anywhere in this matrix? Means this is how we can derive this beta parameters with matrix form, and that's enough. If you know that, you can apply it to a bivariate case or multivariate case. Any case you can apply this matrix method, this OLS method. This is right now we are doing only ordinary least square method, where we're trying to minimize the summation u hat square. Anyone any doubt in this matrices derivation? Then I'll give you one numerical example for this matrices example. Okay, Harminder sir is typing. For the time being, just see the numerical example. Let's suppose you have this y values, means sample, explain differentiation. Okay, differentiation. Differentiation, यहाँ पे ऐसे differentiation. We have this is a result part of the u hat transpose into u hat. So here these two terms are the scalar matrix. So scalar matrix we can just write as a, we can just add this minus minus. So we have just 2 minus 2. You can keep any of these scalar matrix. Means if you can go with the Gujarati, that's why I'm giving both example. They are keeping this first one, and in the Green and Madala and other books, they're keeping the second matrix. But the both have a scalar matrix single value, so it means both the values are same. You can write anyway. This is only the difference while we are writing in the equation form, but when if we have this actual number, then it's the same number, so it won't make any difference. So if we differentiate it with respect to beta 0, so here now what you need in the column matrix, column vector form or the row vector form. So let's suppose this is, we have to differentiate with respect to this beta hat matrix. So this property I was telling you, this property of this differentiation. Let's suppose we have this particular matrices and we want to differentiate it with respect to x. So both the answers are correct, like this first one, 2ax means just we left out the x transpose part, and we are just remaining with the first one, the x transpose. Now we have a 2x, but this if you need which is a column vector of an element. But if you need a row vector of the n elements, then it will be the reverse, that you have to keep this first one, x transpose and a. Now here the situation is in this particular derivation that our beta hat matrix, this is a k into 1 dimension. So k number of rows. So here we need in the form of row vector. So intentionally here the differentiation process in the matrices we follow, in which we keep row vector. This particular means we did it differentiation with respect to x, but we are left with the, now it will interchange with x transpose into A, means then you will have the same results. So intentionally we kept here the row vector because we need this dimension k into 1, otherwise dimension will change. Let's suppose you have this y transpose x here, then the dimension is n into 1, and then x is your n into k, sorry, 1 into n and n to k, then you will left out with the 1 into k. So that's not here the requirement is. We need a k into 1 because the dimension of beta hat is k into 1 row vector we need. That's why we go here with the second type of differentiation where we keep row vector. So this is some, you can say, trick, or this is the requirement here in this differentiation in the matrix. So we kept here this row vector method. And for this part, again, the same thing, that actually these are the this is the transpose here, beta 0 transpose. We are not keeping the transpose part here. So we are left with the square, then x transpose x and beta matrix. Again, its dimension, again, it's k into 1. Like this x transpose is k into n, then n into k, and then k into 1. So the dimension is k into 1. So this dimension we need the same in both the cases, k into 1 and k into 1. So due to this requirement, here the differentiation is in the form of row vector and column vector. I hope, Harminder sir, you got this point. I think this is the doubt, or is there something else? Or maybe you want to something add here? Okay. So you can go by both, means you go by this second also, but the problem here is that then dimensions will change, and that's not the row vector, the beta hat values which we need this beta matrix. So only we are following the process which is more suitable for this particular, the values which we need. That's why I keep this from two different textbooks, because Gujarati is going by this, but they have done that. They had written that in many notes I have seen that they have written that differentiate with respect to beta hat transpose, and if you differentiate with respect to beta hat transpose, then also you will get these answers. But actually, we are differentiating with respect to beta hat matrix. So I don't want to make it more complicated, that beta hat transpose or beta hat, because we need only beta hat matrix parameters. So just go with the beta hat matrix, and uh, this is the value in the end for beta hat matrices. So just take it from the numerical example. Let's suppose we have this y variable, and this is our x variable. This is the constant. This is not something the data constant is, that its coefficient is always 1 in the data. So this is our y variable, x variable. Now first just see this bivariate case. Yesterday we did it with the simultaneous equation method. Now just take this case with the matrix method. We need value for beta 1 and beta 2 because we have only two variables. Then our residual terms. This is our y matrix, x matrix, dimension n into k, beta k into 1, and residual. So beta parameters, sample beta 1 hat, beta 2 hat, sample estimates. So this is our formula. So first just in the matrix form, this is x, which is the last one, but we have derived the formula for all the beta parameters. So this is x transpose xy. This is the x transpose x matrix. Now you can multiply this. You will get this to 1 with this 1. Then this is n. Then this 1 multiplied with all this summation xi. Then this particular term with this summation xi. Then this particular term with all these terms summation xi square. So this is the part for this first part, x transpose x. Then this x transpose into y, x transpose into y. This is summation yi, summation xi. y, and we need inverse as well. So this is our x transpose x. Its inverse is this inverse you have to solve. It's not that like we solve this with the determinant and all. Then you have to solve this inverse. This is our right hand side value x transpose x, the multiplication part. Now beta 1 hat beta value is x transpose x inverse multiplied by x transpose y. Now from where these values are coming? This is summation y, summation xi, yi. So these values are these one. So if you put these in the formula, this is x transpose x inverse matrix multiplied by x transpose y matrix. So you will get this answer. Now these are the coefficients. Beta hat 24 is the first part, that is intercept, beta 1 hat, and second is the slope coefficient 0.50. So if you can go with this data, it will give you same results. 0.50 slope coefficient, 24 is the intercept coefficient. The same values which yesterday we did with the bivariate method, same values. Here we did with the simultaneous equation methods. But if we have n number of independent variables, then it's not easy to sort out with the simultaneous equation method. Then better to go with the matrices method, matrix form. So with the matrix form, the results are same, but now there is no restriction that it's only beta 1 hat or beta 2 hat. You have n number of betas, means independent variables. Matrix will give you the answers. Let me take another example. We have more than one independent variable. Let's suppose we have this data that real investment is a dependent variable. Independent variable is trend, means a time variable. Then real GNP, interest rate, inflation rate. So now again the requirement is that we have to go with this particular method. Only the change is now here the number of rows and columns will increase. Means this is not this is simplification 2 by 2. Now we have a dimensions will change because we have a more number of variables. So let's do this particular data set with this data software. If I have this data, then just let me clear it down. Okay, I just entered this data in the data window. This is the data, the same this data, my dependent variables and independent variables. So in software, you just need to type regress, dependent variable, real investment, then independent variables, trend, real GNP, interest rate, inflation rate. Now all these coefficients intercept. This is our first parameter, beta 1 hat, then beta 2 hat, beta 2 hat, beta 3 hat, beta 4 hat, and beta 5 hat. The answers are from the matrix method. So you can go, either you can go with simultaneous equation, you can solve, but that will take time. Then you have to apply this Cramer rule or those methods which we apply in the matrices, or you can just solve it by the matrix methods. So far, we are only done with this only parameters, that how we derive the parameters with the OLS method. But still, we are left with this all other derivations. That means the purpose of this particular series is part 3. The first part I have to that first we have to understand derivation for all these values. And so far we only did with this coefficient values. Then for all other values, and its interpretation, and then with the problems with the OLS. So first this is done. First derivation with matrix method and OLS simultaneous equation methods. In both the cases, we are applying this OLS method. Any doubt on these derivations? So far, we only derived coefficients, sample statistics with the matrix method and simultaneous equation method. So when you have more than one independent variables, then it's better to go with the matrix method. I don't know. So far, uh, I have seen that still both the methods in many places they are teaching means simultaneous equation than matrices, but I think matrix is much easier that you have one matrix for all beta, then it's not that one by one, because if you have a simultaneous equation, then the efforts are required first to beta 1, then beta 2, then beta 3, means separate derivation. Means yesterday we did it separately, right? Means for the slope coefficient, for the intercept coefficient. So if you go with this method, then you have to solve it for the number of sample statistics, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4. But if you are doing it with the matrix methods, then you can solve it all at one with a one-step procedure. So that's why this matrix is much easier as compared to the simultaneous equation method. But this is all about the OLS. In the background, just keep in this mind that we are trying to minimize summation U hat square, and with the first order condition, we keep it equivalent to 0. If we differentiate it with the first order condition, and with that equations, we will derive this sample estimates beta 1 hat, beta 2 hat. So this is a matrix method. Any doubt in these two methods? Tomorrow also I'm not sure I'll free or not. In that case, I'll take class on Saturday as well, because I want to complete these derivations first. Then only because after this derivation, now the assumptions are most important part. That what are the assumptions of this OLS method, and if those assumptions will fulfill, then only there are some statistical properties that will be proved. Otherwise, there is a problem to apply the OLS method. So there is a derivation part for that. So first I want to complete that tomorrow, day after tomorrow, maybe 1 or 2 other days. Then I'll shift to these other values. Hypothesis testing, this T part, then overall model significance part F, then goodness of it, this R square value, and this table is for the F table, F ratio stat. So I want to discuss, these all values are required before jumping to the conclusions, same as we are doing in the part 2. But before that, we have to understand assumptions and problems with the assumptions. Okay, any problem so far? I don't know, it's because I missed the class yesterday. I'm not able to understand it, so I will watch. Yeah, that's the thing, so here. If you miss the class, then it will be difficult. Means these derivations, because the idea behind the derivation with the theta I explained yesterday. Today, just I changed the pattern, that in place of bivariate, I took a case of multivariate. Only the change was that, but the process and all idea that you have to follow with the first lecture. Okay, so if you derive this with this OLS method, there are two types of properties. First is the numerical properties, and then statistical properties. Statistical properties I'll take separately tomorrow or day after tomorrow. For that, first we have to understand the assumptions. If assumption will fulfill for this OLS model, then only there are statistical properties that we study, like blue properties, Gauss-Markov theorem. But before that, there are numerical properties with these estimates. The first property is it passes through sample means of y and x. Means, while you try to understand these derivations, the important part is that always keep yourself with the basic equation, that what you are trying to do. You have an independent variable, you have a dependent variable, you have a mathematical function, After mathematical function, we made it in the econometrics function by adding the u hat term, residual term. Hat here we are using because it's from the sample estimates. These basic equations you have to keep in mind that from where we have started these derivations, then only can understand these properties, otherwise it's not possible. This is our basic equation. This whole process we are doing with these basic equations. Our purpose is to estimate these two values. Now, to estimate this, we are taking the help of OLS method. Now, what OLS method is trying to minimize this gap, actual minus predicted values, because we don't want that the regression line will not be representative of the actual data. So we need this gap as minimum as possible. That's what OLS is trying to do. But with the absolute gap, there is a problem that you might have a two different sample regression functions, but both will have a equal equivalent to zero u hat summation. Example yesterday I shared with you that in both the cases you have a zero value of this u hat. So we can't sure which function is better. So to get rid of this particular problem, in the OLS methods we do first take a square of u hat and its summation. So we try to minimize the summation u hat square. That's why we say it as an ordinary least square. We try to minimize it. So we are trying to estimate this beta 1 and beta 2 hat in such a manner which minimize this particular value. And for minimizing, we are using this differentiation that we take its differentiation with respect to beta hat and we put it into a first order necessary minima condition, that is first order derivative equal to 0, and that way we have estimated. Same process we did with the matrix method. Now in place of simple u hat, now we have a square in the matrix form. That's the change in the matrix. And in place of one single equation, now we have a n number of equations. So we are using the matrix method. Again, we are minimizing u hat square, but now in the matrix forms, and trying to minimize to get a minimize this particular. We differentiate this u hat square with respect to beta hat matrix, and with that we will get these values in form of this matrix. These are the matrices. I mean, this one is the matrix of beta 1 hat, and this one is the again the matrix like this matrix x transpose x inverse into x transpose y. Yeah, because of the multivariate. Means you can go with the simultaneous equation method also, but then you have a, if let's suppose you have a 10 simultaneous equations, like let's suppose this one, then it's not easy to solve it manually, right? So better go with the matrix method. That's why we study the matrix method. This n number of equations, then go with the matrix method. The Cramer rules and all those you study in the basics in matrix, those methods are to solve this n number of equations. You can also go with the simultaneous equation method. There is no harm in that, but that process is so much complicated. So that's why for simplicity we use matrix methods, and then software is generally designed in a matrix method. But both will give the same answer, means this bivariate analysis, go with the matrix method will give you same answers, which you go with the simultaneous equation method. Values will not change, so it's better to use the matrix method. But the purpose here is that we need a regression line that will minimize this gap, means that will be representative of the actual data, so that we can rely on that particular regression line and we can use that for policy purpose or forecasting, because that's the purpose behind this econometric analysis. We are trying to measurement of what, either this slope coefficient or this intercept coefficient, so that you can see the changes in dependent variable due to change in the independent variable. Whole purpose is to get these answers, and to get these answers we need estimate values for these two parameters, or more than beta 2 hat if we have a more than one independent variable. For that we are using methods. The OLS method try to minimize this gap, this residual and actual value and predicted value gap. This is the idea behind the OLS method. But still it's not that just to this particular process we can rely that okay, this OLS is better method and we can just go with this method. No, there are some statistical properties that is required, like uh, is it this beta estimated sample value we can rely upon, means is it that it might be changed. Yeah, yesterday I gave you two examples of the I divided that sample size into equal parts and the values for beta coefficients is different. So how can you rely that which one is better, means then means when you're doing actual study you are doing with the sample, right? You don't know the population results. So on the basis of sample estimate, how can you rely? So for that we have this hypothesis testing. So before hypothesis testing, there are few properties that was proved with this OLS method for these parameters that we have to understand. But that property is only proved if the assumption will fulfill. So tomorrow, first I take the assumptions, then those properties. That's very crucial properties. Otherwise, you can't just use these sample estimates, because you can't just say upon this sample calculation that this is you can use for the population. Some properties are required. So first, before that, just understand the numerical properties. Numerical property, the first simple is that this regression line will pass through sample means of y and x. Means if you can take the example, this numerical example, the mean of y and x is here 111 and 170. So whatever regression line we have, this regression line, this line will pass through this sample mean of y and sample mean of this x. Means wherever this both the means will interact, this x variable and y variable, this regression line will pass through with this mean. Any one of you tell me this importance of this particular property, means what is something important in this property? Means you might have studied this property in textbooks. But what's the importance or significance of this property? That these are the numerical properties of OLS estimates, that if you have a regression line with these OLS estimates, the first property is saying that regression line will pass through sample means of y and sample mean of x. What it mean? The meaning is simple. Like where there is interaction of this both the means, regression line is passing through these means. What its implication? What its implication? Any one of you, if Nimisha is present, because all of you already done this in MA third semester, MA fourth semester, this econometric analysis. So what it means, that means what's the importance of this property? Anyone? Okay, here's the problem we have. Out of 15, only 5 are present. So the maximum class is absent. Yeah, means 5 or 7 or 8 students are always absent. So this is here the maximum question. You can ask the maximum explanations I can give. If you want to skip, I can skip it. Because you are doing first time, I don't have these questions in your mind that what significance, but it's very important conclusion here we have. Sorry, saying minimize the difference. Actually, the thing is here that we need a, okay, let me go to the graph first without any regression line. If I have, okay, let's suppose this wage and education, the blue dot case, let's take it. These are the scatter plots, right? Wage and education. So there is a definitely somewhere here the average wages, and there is somewhere the average education, number of year of education. So the regression line is how you need this regression line. Means let's suppose, okay, this is the case here. With all the education levels, there are different sets of wages, right? And here somewhere around there is some average education number of years, and here somewhere around the average wages they are receiving. So let's suppose you have a regression line somewhere here which don't even pass through these means. Is that line you can rely that is a representative of your data? Means there is no way that you can rely on that line if it's not passing through these means. Means where the averages are, and the regression line is just average, right? This is average regression pass through the means. That it means the implication is that if you have a regression line, for example, somewhere here, that line has no meaning at all because our data and observations are here, and averages of this both the sample variables is somewhere here. We have some regression line. It means that regression line is not representative of this data, and if some line is not represent, how that will be possible? That might be that you have applied some technique or method which is giving you a sample estimate beta 1, beta 2 in such a way that that's not particular data set in such a manner, this estimate such a manner that it gives us this confidence that we can rely on this line and we can generalize this on an average that okay, on an average these are the results, and we can do some forecast and policy measure. So it's important that at least that line will pass through the averages, and that's why the first important implication of this OLS method is that it always passes through the averages. I hope you got this point. That's why it is important that this particular simple property that, and what it means is if it is only at least this regression line is representative of this data. Yeah, yes, sir. That's why we say the expectation of y with respect to x. Otherwise, let's suppose if I have a regression line here, somewhere here, and the averages are meeting somewhere here, then we can't just rely on that line. So we need a line that at least that needs to be representative of that particular observation actual figures. So it's important that at least that line pass through the means. And this is the numerical property of the OLS, that this is proof that this will pass through this particular averages of these y and x, whatever variables we have. If we have a more than one variable, the graphical picture is not possible. Although I took this from the William Green textbook, that what it means if we have a more than one variable, that you might be asking me that can we draw the graph? It's not possible, simple graphical tools. But just to get an idea, you have a one independent variable and you have this x1, x2 independent variables. So it's a three-dimensional type of thing. You can imagine it, but it's not possible to draw this. But this is how you can have this imagination about the more than one variable. So this is the first simple numerical property of the OLS. Then second, means all these properties have theoretical meaning. It's not something that mathematical and you can just practice the derivation. Or no, they have some theoretical meanings for the implications as well. The second, all this I have took from the Gujarati textbook, so you can just read that textbook. The mean value of estimated y means this y hat. This y hat, estimated y. Now, average of this particular y hat, this estimated y, is equal to average of your dependent variable. Now what it means now? The mean value of estimated y is equal to the mean value of actual y. First, just see this in the data. The mean of this estimated y is 110 and the mean of actual y is 111, nearby approximately say, right? So what it means now, what its implication is that average value of estimated y is equal to average of the actual y. Now, again, what its implication means? Why is it important to know that? And if it's a property, then what's its importance? That mean of the estimated value is equal to the mean of actual value. In graphical, it means that the mean of this estimated y is here, and that's actually the mean of actual y as well. Is the mean of this particular, all these points, this regression lines, is equivalent to mean of the actual y. This is the property of this. This is only possible when this sample line passes through the mean of this. But what's its theoretical meaning is that on an average, both are giving you the same results. Okay, so whatever average value for dependent variable you have, estimated y is also giving you the same. And indirectly, what it means is that this residuals are up and down, means its summation is 0. So its summation is 0, means so it may be somewhere that these actual values are upper side of this regression line and somewhere it's in the downward side. But on an average, the average of this estimated value is equal to the actual average of the dependent variable. This is another also important implication of this property, that we can rely on this estimated because its average value is on an average. It is also equivalent to the actual average of the dependent variable. Now, just imagine the another scenario when it's not possible. Let's suppose the case is that the average of this regression line is somewhere here and actual average of dependent variable is here. So but that will be replicate. No, sir, it's not. Yes, indirectly that way, but it actually, when we work only with the sample data, means here our dependent variable is also from the sample. So we don't have here the population in the picture. Means we can't any value, any data set. Means this meaning this average of actual is also from the sample, and this estimated line is also from the sample data. So all the both are from the sample. So population we can't mix here because it's not the population data. Only thing is that this regression line is actually a representative of this data set. So that's the important implication, and both have an equal average. So we can just rely on this and its gap. Now, what will the, where are the points where this average is not equal? The difference is due to error residuals. And if that residuals are equally distributed, then only this will be the situation that you have a average of estimated y is equal to the average of the actual y of your dependent variable. It means residuals are distributed equally on both the sides. The difference is actually residual. And if it's a biasness, then it means that suppose you have a mean somewhere here of the estimated regression line, and you have a mean of the actual y here, then it means that residuals are not normally distributed or equally distributed. So there is some problem with that. So it's only possible when you have a, and that's why we have this other property, that summation u hat is equal to 0. The third property, the mean value of the residuals is 0. This is actually from the second. Means if you can join these three properties, one or the another is interconnected with each other. So this is the third implication. Then we have that average value of residual is 0. It means that at many points is more than the estimated, and at many points it's less than the estimated. Like in this graph, we have somewhere it's upper side, somewhere in the downside. So it distributed. So and it is what we need actually. 0 means if it's more than 0, it means not equally distributed, so there is some problem. And then this property will also not be proved, not possible to prove, because that's not equally distributed. Okay, to another property is that this residual is nothing have nothing correlated with the dependent variable as well as independent variable. Means this residual unknown factors have nothing to do with the dependent variable as well as independent variables. Right? I can take this equation, means this residual, whatever the values they have, that is due to some unknown factors, right? We can take these values y minus y hat, these estimated values, and if we subtract these values from the y, that's the residual term. So this residual term summation 0 is saying that okay, they are distributed equally, so that's okay. But if it's not 0, then it means there might be some association type of thing. But in the theoretical framework now, the two other properties is that this value is not related to this particular y. Means if you can see the correlation with this data, let's suppose we have this regression model. Okay, predict y hat. Then we need a u hat. So generate u hat that is equal to dependent variable minus, if the name is just var1, var2, just y and x. First is the dependent variable, var2 is the independent variable. So minus y hat, that is our residual term. So we are saying it needs that no correlation between dependent variable with the u hat. Now you can cross check it with the graph, simple graph as well. Scatter plot, create y as a y dependent variable and u hat independent variable. Accept. Okay, now you can see it's scattered. There is no any type of, although this is very small sample size. Or you can just calculate the correlation coefficient, statistics, correlations, variable for one and u hat. It's by nearby 0, right? And if you can go by half this testing, it definitely is going to be insignificant. Similarly, u hat with the independent variables, like we have x variable here. So again, scattered, there is no type of association again here, and you can check its correlation coefficient. Again, it's going to be small. Yeah, nearby 0. These are the two another properties of this sample estimates with the OLS methods, that residual term is not correlated with the dependent variable as well as independent variable. Now, okay, the proof is done. Now, why it is important? But its implication for our regression models, or why it is important that it needs to be that means all these 5 properties. It's not that they are just a few extra benefits we have now. Actually, these are the requirements of the models. If these properties will not be fulfilled, we have problem to face. I think internet speed is slow. Okay, yeah, this particular slide. What are the implications of this? That, or what if this y is correlated with the residual term? Or this residual term is correlated with the independent variable. What will be the problem with that? Now, again, if I'll give this particular regression equation, first take this particular case that when if just a hypothetical take a case, if your this in residual term is correlated with your any of the independent variable, the whole purpose in the regression is that you have to find the partial slope coefficient of that variable so that you can find that how much is the changes in the dependent variable is due to this individual independent variable, and that you will get only with this its slope coefficient, partial slope coefficient. But if it's correlated with the residual term, then you can't just say that this change in the independent variable above by this particular amount. No, because that change is might be because of the residual term as well. So that individual change in the dependent variable due to that particular independent variable, that's not possible to measure unless they are uncorrelated with each other. That I'll also take tomorrow with the assumptions that it is also required with the other variables as well. And if it's a case of residual with the this actual y case, then it means that these residuals are not equally distributed, and then there is a problem that it might be change your regression line and it will not be useful, or it not be a unbiased case that we actually going to prove with the other statistical properties. Then again it will create a problem that if this residual term is correlated with the dependent variable, because its value is going to be zero only when it's not associated with the other factor. These are the unknown factors we are keeping aside. We are giving a space to here for unknown factors, and that's not needs to be correlated with any other variable. So these are the numerical properties with this estimates. Means the beta 1, beta 2, which we have derived sample estimates based upon OLS method. We can only work with those methods. For example, you have a data, any data you have. For example, hey, we have this data. You can just type the command in this data. Data will give you these results, right? And then you can just look upon the hypothesis testing and all, and you can just generalize the results. But before doing that, it's important that you can understand that how these values are calculated. What it means you need this confidence that can you rely on these values to jump to some conclusion. But to understand, you have to understand this whole process of OLS as well as the properties with the OLS. Then only you can go to the next step, that where you try to interpret or try to hypothesis testing whether these results you can are statistically significant or not. But before that, you have to understand this process, what this process is and what are the properties with this process, so that you can rely. It is like the example I'm giving, that if you're going to buy a mobile phone and you know the features you require. So these are the feature actually. These properties are the features of this OLS method, and we are going to apply only OLS only when these features we will get. Otherwise, we are not going to apply this OLS method. But with this method, there are so many assumptions as well. So tomorrow in the next class, I'll take assumptions first, then other statistical properties. So this is for today. Means we did derivation of estimates. Now we are left with the other parts, the variance, their assumptions, statistical properties, then all these other coefficients which we generally get with the regression results. These all are important when we apply the regression. So in this part, we will try to work with all these values one by one. But first, just complete this estimate process, its properties, assumption. Then we will jump to the other part, next part. Any doubt? So anything anyone wants to contribute?